Imagine waiting years for something, not knowing if it will ever come. Would you have the patience to endure, or would you give up too soon? In a quiet village surrounded by towering mountains and lush greenery, there lived a revered monk, known for his deep wisdom and serene demeanor. People from distant lands traveled to seek his guidance, believing he held the key to life's greatest lessons. One day, a restless young man arrived at the monastery, his face clouded with frustration and impatience. He had heard of the monk's teachings and was eager to learn the secret to patience, but he wanted the lesson to be quick and easy. The young man approached the monk and declared, "Master, I wish to learn patience, but I do not have the time to wait. Can you teach me quickly?" The monk, observing the urgency in the young man's voice, simply smiled and nodded. "If you truly seek patience, follow me," he said. Without hesitation, the young man followed as the monk led him beyond the monastery gates and into the dense, ancient forest. As they walked through the forest, the air was filled with the sound of rustling leaves and birds singing their morning songs. The path was uneven, filled with stones and tangled roots. The young man grew weary and impatient. "Master, how much longer must we walk? Will this journey itself teach me patience?" The monk did not answer, only continuing forward with a calm and steady pace. After what felt like an eternity, they arrived at a small clearing where the earth was rich and dark. The monk knelt down and scooped up a handful of soil, letting it slip through his fingers. He then reached into his robe and pulled out a tiny seed, placing it in the young man's palm. "This is your first lesson," the monk said. "Plant this seed here in the soil, water it every day, care for it as if it were a treasure, and in time you will learn the patience you seek." The young man stared at the tiny seed in disbelief. "That's it? Just plant a seed and water it? I expected a profound teaching or meditation practice." The monk simply smiled and gestured toward the earth. With a sigh, the young man did as instructed, digging a small hole, placing the seed inside, and covering it gently with soil. He then walked to a nearby stream, cupped his hands, and carefully poured water over the spot. The monk nodded in approval. "Return here every day and tend to the seed. When the time is right, you will understand patience." Without another word, the monk turned and walked away, leaving the young man alone with his task. The young man, though skeptical, decided to commit to the practice. Each morning, he made the journey to the clearing, watering the soil and watching for signs of growth. But days passed, then weeks, and there was no sign of life. Frustration gnawed at him. "Why is nothing happening? Have I been tricked?" he wondered. Little did he know, his lesson in patience had only just begun. In the following weeks, the young man dutifully returned to the clearing each day, carefully watering the soil where he had planted the seed. At first, he was hopeful, convinced that any day now, a tiny sprout would break through the surface. But as the days stretched into weeks, his excitement began to wane. The soil remained unchanged, no green shoots, no signs of life. Doubt crept into his mind. He started questioning the monk's lesson. "Perhaps I planted it wrong," he thought. He knelt down and brushed the soil gently with his fingers, trying to detect even the smallest change. There was nothing. Frustration began to build within him. A month passed, and the seed remained hidden beneath the earth. Every morning, he performed the same ritual, watering the barren patch of soil, hoping for a miracle. He spoke to the seed, encouraging it to grow, but it did not respond. Anger bubbled inside him. "Is this a joke?" he muttered to himself. "Has the monk tricked me into a pointless task?" By the second month, his patience was wearing thin. He considered abandoning the task altogether. He had done everything as instructed, yet he saw no results. Each morning, the walk to the clearing felt heavier, his motivation dwindling. He looked at the patch of earth and scoffed. "What's the point of all this?" he thought. "If nothing is happening, why should I continue?" 3 months in, he finally decided to confront the monk. He returned to the monastery and found the old master seated in quiet meditation. "Master," he said, unable to hide his frustration, "I have done everything you asked. I planted the seed, I watered it every single day, but nothing has grown. Was this all just a meaningless task?" The monk opened his eyes, his expression calm and knowing. He studied the young man for a moment before speaking. "If you believe it is meaningless, you are free to stop." The young man was taken aback. He had expected an explanation, some wisdom to make sense of his struggle, but the monk offered nothing, only the option to quit. A mix of anger and confusion swirled inside him. He clenched his fists and exhaled sharply. "I won't give up," he declared, more to himself than to the monk. Without another word, he turned and walked back to the clearing. He would see this through, no matter how long it took. He was determined now, not just to grow the seed, but to prove to himself that patience had a purpose, even if he did not yet understand it. Weeks turned into months, and the young man continued his daily routine. The initial frustration had faded, replaced by a quiet acceptance of the process. He no longer checked the soil with impatience, but simply cared for it as part of his day. His thoughts became calmer, and he found himself enjoying the peaceful solitude of the clearing. One morning, as the golden rays of the sun stretched across the horizon, he noticed something different. A tiny green sprout had emerged from the soil. His heart raced with excitement. He knelt beside it, hardly believing his eyes. The seed had finally begun to grow. He rushed back to the monastery, eager to share this moment with the monk. Finding him in his usual place, he exclaimed, "Master, the seed has sprouted. But why did it take so long? I watered it every day for months with no results." The monk smiled knowingly. "The seed was growing all along," he said, "but its growth was hidden beneath the surface. Before it could emerge, it had to send roots deep into the earth. If it had sprouted too soon, it would have been weak, unable to withstand the wind or the rain. Only by patiently strengthening its foundation could it finally rise." The young man listened intently, the meaning of the lesson sinking in. He had spent months tending to the seed, believing nothing was happening. Yet all along, something profound was taking place beneath the surface. Just like the seed, he too had changed. The frustration and impatience that once consumed him had given way to perseverance and trust in the process. "Patience is not about waiting idly," the monk continued. "It is about trusting that growth is happening even when you cannot see it. True strength is built in silence, and the greatest transformations occur when you least expect them." The young man looked at the fragile sprout, now understanding its journey mirrored his own. He had come seeking a quick lesson, but he had instead lived the teaching itself. Smiling, he bowed deeply to the monk, feeling gratitude for the wisdom he had gained, not through words, but through experience. As he continued to care for the plant, he realized that patience was not just about enduring time, but about embracing the unseen progress that shaped all great things in life. The young man stood before the monk, his heart full of newfound understanding. The lesson was clear now. True growth happens beneath the surface, beyond what the eyes can see. He had spent months thinking that nothing was changing, yet both he and the seed had been transforming all along. "Master," he said softly, "I understand now. Patience is not about waiting. It is about trusting the process, even when the results are invisible." The monk nodded, his serene smile unwavering. "Exactly. In life, the most important progress often happens in silence. Just as the seed had to take root before it could rise, so too must we strengthen ourselves internally before we see the fruits of our labor. Those who rush the process often fail, but those who trust in time will always find success." The young man looked back at the tiny sprout, no longer seeing it as just a plant, but as a symbol of his own journey. The frustration he had once felt now seemed distant, almost foolish. He had learned not just patience, but resilience, faith, and the power of unseen growth. He bowed deeply to the monk, not just out of respect, but out of deep gratitude. "Thank you, Master. This lesson will stay with me forever." The monk simply placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Remember, patience is not about enduring the wait. It is about embracing the journey." With a newfound sense of peace, the young man left the monastery, carrying with him not just wisdom, but a transformed spirit. From that day forward, he approached life with a different mindset, knowing that true progress is always happening, even when it cannot yet be seen. The lesson the young man learned that day was not just about patience, it was about life itself. In a world where everyone seeks instant success, true achievement belongs to those who take the time to build strong roots. Just as the seed had to establish itself beneath the surface before it could grow, success in life requires a foundation of persistence, discipline, and faith. Many people give up too soon because they don't see immediate results. They abandon their dreams, thinking their efforts are in vain. But what if the greatest progress is happening beneath the surface? What if the struggle is actually preparing them for something greater? The journey of success is much like that of the seed. Unseen efforts lead to visible triumphs. When we face obstacles, setbacks, or moments of doubt, we must remember that growth takes time. Every great leader, every successful entrepreneur, and every accomplished individual has had their period of silent struggle. The difference is that they chose to keep going. If you ever feel like giving up, remind yourself that your roots are still forming. Stay consistent, trust the process, and believe that your efforts will eventually bear fruit. Growth may not always be visible, but it is always happening. Have you ever experienced a moment in life where patience led to an unexpected success? Share your story in the comments. We would love to hear how patience has shaped your journey.